Yeah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to BSing Sports. I'm Bill. As always, with me is Ryan Wave. This week's episode is, if you're paying attention to pretty much anything going on in anything, anywhere in the world, you know that this weekend would be the Super Bowl for the NFL. We have the Cincinnati Bengals facing off with the Los Angeles Rams, and we are looking forward to giving you our predictions on that, and then we're going to have a nice GOAT conversation. We texted each other a little bit about it last night, but we didn't give any information away, so what reactions Ryan and I have for each other are genuine. We don't know what the other one's going to say. It's going to be nice. So, Ryan, you want to give me a quick preview / any kind of information you got on the Bengals and our boy Joe Burrow?
No, your boy Joe Burrow. I'm Team Stafford here. And since, honestly, you call yourself a Georgia fan and are rooting for Joe Burrow, I'm very appalled, and you should be too.
I'm not, though.
Yeah, you're not what? Not rooting for Burrow?
I'm rooting for a really good game. Very, very diplomatic answer. I do have a prediction, and it has changed literally every single day this week. It has changed, which poises for a great Super Bowl, and that's really what I wanted. I put Joe Burrow up here because he was the first picture I found. I didn't have any kind of rhyme or reason for why Joe Burrow was on the background. I could probably switch it to Stafford here pretty quick and easy if I really wanted to. But yeah, again, I've gone back and forth every single day this week, and the odds in Vegas aren't really helping the decision here for who I think has got the edge. You're talking it's a 3.5-point game, and it's being played in Los Angeles.
Fun fact: the last 9 games where a Super Bowl team or a team in the Super Bowl was more than a 3-point underdog, they are 7-2 straight up.
That is a good fun fact to have. The Bengals are the team that is the underdog here.
Yeah, they're 7-2 straight up.
Well, that's good. So that goes well for the Bengals. Could go well for the Bengals, obviously. We got some injury news. Tyler Higbee has been ruled out for tomorrow's game.
Yeah.
It's a tight end for the Los Angeles Rams, obviously. Odell Beckham Jr., his partner is pregnant and due to give birth any minute now. He was asked earlier what would happen if he got the phone call tomorrow morning, and he said, "I'll have to call them back 36 hours later." So that's funny.
That's probably true. Sorry, kid. In all honesty, I'd probably do the same thing. It's the Super Bowl. The birth of your child, it might be a once in a lifetime shot, just like the Super Bowl, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree.
So with that being said, Bengals, Rams, and I think this is kind of the general consensus and definitely the way that I feel. I really don't care who wins. In all honesty, there isn't, anything that I hate about the Rams or Matthew Stafford or anything that I hate about the Bengals or Joe Burrow. There's no real reason that I can find where, it's like the Brady, the Mahomes, God, I'm tired of seeing these guys in here. It's fresh blood. 2 quarterbacks, who are coming off of, I guess Stafford's coming off of really just a terrible start to his career in the sense that he was in Detroit. It's kind of miserable. And then Burrow coming off that injury, last year. Colin Cowherd actually went on this kind of rant that said Joe Burrow was robbed of the MVP, the MVP award, and I definitely disagree. They went 10-7, and Joe Burrow has some big play, big loss tendencies. So while he is very valuable to the Bengals, I'm not going to sit there and say that he is the entire reason that they won. They have 3 very capable receivers. A running back who finally stayed healthy. No offensive line, so that doesn't really matter. And the defense was surprisingly decent for most of the year. So.
Hello, Levi. How you doing, bud?
But I think there's more dynamic to the Bengals, and if anybody on the Bengals got robbed of anything, it was Zach Taylor for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, and I'm with you there. Zach Taylor definitely should have won Coach of the Year. But to your point on the Joe Burrow being very valuable to the Bengals, I mean, clearly he is. Last year they go 4-11-1, same record as the Philadelphia Eagles last year, and then they turn around and, as you pointed out, 10-7. They're going to the Super Bowl, and obviously Joe Burrow is a large part of that. But again, as you pointed out, I don't think he was robbed of the MVP specifically because of his big game ability. But again, he led the league. He tied lead for the league lead in interceptions, and I mean, you can't be doing that if you're trying to win an MVP.
Yeah, I think if you take the Packers, or you take Rodgers off the Packers and then you take Burrow off the Bengals, I think the Bengals, I think honestly both teams finished with a very similar record, which, I mean, the Packers were a better team this year in terms of record, wins and losses in the regular season. So that's obviously more of a detriment to the Packers than it is the Bengals. But I kind of see where it is. I think, maybe showing some love to Joe Burrow is fine. But however, I'm going to stand firmly in the fact that I think Zach Taylor is probably the only person on the Bengals that got robbed of anything.
I'm with you on that. Going to the other side of the football, the Los Angeles Rams, as I pointed out, Tyler Higbee's already out, and the information about Odell Beckham Jr., as I've already pointed out, they have a lot of opportunity here. I mean, the issue with them is they played really, really good at times, and then they played really, really bad at times. So it's really, again, I'm just hoping for a really good game. I'm with you. I don't have a preference to which team wins. Obviously, we're going to make our prediction here in a few minutes. But as it stands, just as a Super Bowl, really, really promising, and I'm hoping for the game that we think it's going to be high scoring, blow for blow, and I'd be excited to see that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what everybody wants, and I think that's what everybody's going to get. In all honesty, I think that, the potential for both teams to hit 30 points is very real here. We're going to be an exciting game all the way around for sure. I think really this comes down to which team is going to be able to establish the run first. Cam Akers, while getting the touches, has not looked exactly great. And the same thing with Joe Mixon. However, the Bengals have been playing from behind quite a bit in the playoffs, so he really hasn't gotten too many opportunities to get going.
Yeah, it's worth noting that Darrell Henderson also has been activated, so he'll be available tomorrow for the Rams to be backing up Sonny Michel and Cam Akers. Obviously, Cam Akers is the one getting the touches there right now. Yeah, I mean, I don't have like a whole bunch to say about it. Like, I'm excited to see the Super Bowl. I'm excited to watch the Super Bowl. I'm excited for the Super Bowl, and I'm just ecstatic that it's not Tom Brady or the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I have to stress that so much. The whole time the playoffs were going on, I just kept saying the same thing. I just want to see somebody new. Well, I got my wish, so let's hope they don't disappoint, right?
Yeah, and for, a guy like Matthew Stafford, this is a long time coming. 12 years in Detroit, I think.
12.
Detroit's just a miserable franchise. He's starting to run up there in age, mid-30s. And, we've touched on it before, but looking back on that trade, that this is a win-win for sure. And ultimately, I'd even say the Rams are probably the winners if they end up winning the Super Bowl of that trade just in 1 year. Think about, just the impact that move had on this team. Jared Goff being a bottom 10 quarterback in the league, and Matthew Stafford always, being a top 10 talent on a bottom 10 team. So,
yeah, and I mean the proof is in the pudding. You put Stafford here with the Rams, and look at what they've done. As you pointed out, they're in the Super Bowl. As we pointed out, they're in the Super Bowl. But I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Stafford on a bottom 10 team just wasn't able to pull them through. Now, he had a couple of winning seasons, didn't win any playoff games, but he drug a poor franchise for 12 years on his back. He and Megatron for a while. Unfortunately, Megatron had to retire because he realized there was nothing going on there. And I mean, it's also worth noting Matthew Stafford has thrown two of the best wide receiver seasons in history. One to Megatron, as I pointed out, Calvin Johnson, and then this year to Cooper Kupp. And Stafford is the quarterback for both of those. So the talent has been there for Matthew Stafford his entire career. And again, the proof is in the pudding. Super Bowl appearance with a good team.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do predictions. So who you got coming out on top today, and by what score?
So yesterday, I would have told you I had the Cincinnati Bengals winning 37-34 on a last-second overtime Evan McPherson kick. I have since changed my answer. As I said, I've literally gone back and forth every day this week, and not disappointing here. I'm going the Rams to win 34-31 with a last-second field goal by Matt Gay.
I'm going to say 34-27 Rams. I mean, that's just a little bit wider of a margin than most people, but not every game has to end in a field goal. And I kind of think that, we've run dry on those. So I'm gonna say it ends on the last second touchdown. But it's still gonna be a close competitive game. Like I said, 34-27. Nobody would be really mad or upset about that. Actually, I'm really hoping for, what is it, like 31-26? What number do I have in that block pool? I think it's 1-6. So
I think you have 1-6. Yeah. Ryan.
Good numbers, actually. I'm not really too upset about that.
Yeah. Timmy, you're in my house. On the counter in front of the coffee pot, I've got our block pool. Can you bring it to me, please?
Yeah, we should probably announce the block pool.
Yeah. For those of you who I haven't sent the numbers to, I apologize. I picked the numbers on Thursday night. I did it really fast on a spin wheel that I have on my phone. So I picked the numbers on Thursday.
And it's worth noting that the winners will get $100 each for the first 3 quarters and $200 for fourth quarter or overtime. So if it does go in overtime,
end of game is what the last block is the last section is. It's not the end of regulation; it's the end of game, just so everybody is on the same page.
Yeah. So, and like we said before, we didn't cheat. Thank you, Kenny. We didn't cheat. We're not in this pool. We own no squares. We didn't use pseudonames or anything like that. We are not there. So, yep, those look really, really good. Who's got that 7-7? Who did I say that to? Matt, I think it was.
Yeah, I believe Matt Nelson has 7-7. Yes, he does.
Super lucky.
Yeah. It's worth noting he's also got 6-3.
Wow. Somebody might have struck gold here.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you for everybody who bought blocks from us. Next year we'll be more organized. We'll get it out a little bit sooner, and we'll try and do a little more advertising on it. Obviously, we're small. We're getting started. Ryan and I are learning everything about the podcast and how we're doing everything. Sports media conglomerate is what we're trying to make ourselves. So hang out with us.
Yeah, Timmy, I'm happy you got some bad numbers.
He has another one apparently where he's got 7-3 and 7-7.
But so last night I texted you. Is there really a GOAT in any sport? If you think about it, and I asked that question because if you think about it, you look at like guys like Tom Brady, and then they're like, oh well, he's definitely the GOAT, and then there's always the time period argument. Oh well, football wasn't the same. Joe Montana would have equally amount of Super Bowls. Defenses played better. The wide receivers weren't allowed to run as free. There's always some kind of argument that can be made, regardless of whether you believe or not that Tom Brady is the GOAT. Then you look at, guys like Barry Bonds, and it's like, well, he was on juice. So, there's a counter argument to that. Wayne Gretzky for hockey is, widely considered. And then LeBron James or Michael Jordan, that's probably like the closest debate in all of the 4 major sports. So, Bill, like, can you really truly measure one single GOAT in any sport for that sport?
No, obviously we can give you the names of the all-time greats. As you pointed out, Wayne Gretzky, you got Jordan. My old man's correct. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar also has 6 rings, worth pointing out there. You've got the Bradys and the Montanas, and in baseball you've got tons and tons and tons of names of great players. Nolan Ryan's one of the best pitchers in history, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think because of the way the era has changed in all the sports, everything is different throughout different generations and then different decades, that it's really difficult to pinpoint one individual player. Because the reality of it is, if you put and we've had this argument before, you put Brady when Montana was playing, and there's no saying that he's as successful as he is. I agree, there's no saying that he isn't. However, there's no saying that he is. Keep in mind that Brady had a bunch of rules made for him specifically. No hits below the belt, no contact to the helmet, the tuck rule, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to the fact that his receivers weren't getting crushed the way that quarterbacks like Montana were dealing with. Those receivers had zero protection, the helmets to helmets, the blindside hits, all of it. Defense or hit on a defenseless receiver was non-existent when they were playing quarterback. So it's really difficult for you to go and say, okay, yeah, there's a GOAT of all time on any specific sport. As you pointed out, the closest one I think we can talk about is Gretzky in hockey. You did give me a name last night.
I disagree with that.
Fire away.
I think the closest to being a GOAT in one singular sport is Babe Ruth in baseball.
Uh,
I think, he's,
700,
I think he's closer than Gretzky.
700 plus home runs. He was also a pretty good pitcher when he was playing.
In the dead ball era, and he didn't start his career as a hitter.
Yes, you are correct in that aspect, but there have been so many great baseball players since him. Like
in the live ball era.
He's one of 3 guys who have 700 plus home runs. And if you take all of Henry Aaron's home runs away and you make them outs, his OPS is still higher than Babe Ruth's.
Yeah, but the point I'm saying is Babe Ruth played in a harder to hit time period and is still 3rd in all-time home runs. Like, okay. I mean, how many guys from that era actually had 100 home runs or 200 home runs? This guy had 700, and he didn't start as a hitter.
Gehrig didn't play long enough to make the list, Ed. All right, look, I see your argument, and I like your argument. So while yours is
again, he's not immune to the GOAT discussion. You can always make the argument that Hank Aaron was a better ball player, that Bonds in his prime before the juice was a better ball player. However, I think he's closer to being a true GOAT, especially because when he did pitch, he was great at it. So He did both facets of the sport, and he was excellent at both. I think he's closer to being a GOAT than Gretzky, who played with some of the softest goaltending ever.
Yes, Gretzky played with some of the softest goaltending ever. However, he still needed to make plays, and he did.
Yeah, and
look, the reality is, look, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. In 3 years, when Ovechkin finally does retire and he has the all-time goal list, I might have a completely different answer for you. But sitting here today, February, 12th, 2022, if we're talking GOAT of hockey, how do you not say Gretzky? Who would your other argument be pitting outside of Gretzky?
I mean, there's plenty of great players, though. I mean, like I said last night, Patrick Waugh, I think, was probably more important compared to goaltenders, or like better compared to goaltenders than Gretzky was to other forwards. Again, Patrick Waugh started his career in a complete dead zone of goaltending. It wasn't super uncommon to give up 10 goals a game. And he's widely, before Marty Brodeur was considered probably the best goaltender in hockey history. So the fact that he stood out amongst his peers more than Gretzky in a way, I think that kind of, mitigates that argument. But at the same time, nobody really brings up goalies when they're talking about GOATs in hockey. It's always forwards. Even guys like Ray Baroka were left out of that. The defensemen are kind of left out of it too, So I think really, if we're talking about every position in hockey, I would say Patrick Waugh is probably more outstanding compared to other goaltenders than Gretzky was to forwards, because there have been plenty of forwards who put up plenty of points.
Okay, all right. I mean, I like your argument, but for me, it's Gretzky in hockey. I mean,
now the fact that Alex Ovechkin is climbing in goal scored and could very well catch Gretzky also means that Gretzky's not immune.
I don't think any player is immune.
I mean, do you think is there any unbreakable records in sports?
Probably. I mean, LT's touchdown record.
Was it 28?
28, yeah.
I mean, with the extra game, I don't think that's impossible. But however, I guess with the way the balls get spread around nowadays and people get subbed in and out, there are no true running backs anymore. I'll make
Thank you, Allie.
Separate posts on the BSing page after your show. Sincerely, your tech expert. Thank you, tech expert.
Most games played in a row by Ripken. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's unbreakable. However, that's probably the only great thing Cal Ripken did in his whole career. He's pretty average, honestly.
Career 292 hitter. Yeah,
I'm glad that Tim said that. Bring that comment up real fast. People were trying to not justify Cooper Kupp's amazing season because there was an extra game, forgetting the fact that a lot of the records we've seen broken in recent history were because extra games were added on compared to when the records were initially set. Like the NFL season started at 12 games. So I don't know. Like just because you weren't alive to see it doesn't really cancel out the fact that the NFL season was 12 games when the league started. So
yeah,
I mean, obviously it's probably going to end up being 18 games eventually. They'll talk about it.
Yeah, they'll talk about it. One of the other records that probably doesn't get broken, and the Patriots almost did it, but obviously they couldn't close out the Super Bowl a few years back. Is a complete undefeated season. Talking from
You don't
start,
think anybody in history could do that again?
not with the extra game. I really don't. Again, the Patriots got 16-0. They ran through the playoffs, got the 18-0, but they finished 18-1. I mean, the 12-game season for Miami that year really helped.
Yeah. I mean, the more games you play, the more you're bound to lose.
Yeah.
I think just with the way athletes are brought up nowadays and the competition and the draft and, just an importance on building homegrown talent, I don't think that there is going to be a team to go, undefeated in football ever again, just because while, yes, the Detroit Lions are not the Kansas City Chiefs, if they played 17 times in 1 year, I bet you they win probably 2 of them. Just because that's why you play the game. Stuff happens, they're still professional players. And like I said, the way that athletes are brought up, the way that talent is brought up nowadays, it's so much more of a level playing field than what it actually looks like when you think about it on paper.
Yeah, and I'm with you. That's why I think that's one of the records that doesn't get broken.
Yeah, I think 17-0, that undefeated season pretty much stands pat.
I like that they announce it. I like that the announcers announce it every year. When the last team finally loses a game, the 72 Dolphins can pop the champagne now. I mean, good for them for going undefeated, for what it's worth. Not to mention they ran the playoffs with a backup quarterback at the time. A lot of people forget that.
Yeah, I mean, they were mostly carried by an excellent defense and a tank at running back, so he didn't really have to do much. But I remember getting in an argument in basic with a guy who thought Dan Marino was the quarterback of that team. I was like, what? Dan Marino was in middle school.
Yeah.
Dude was probably 10 years old.
People are smart, Ryan.
He was like, Dan Marino won 4 Super Bowls. I was like, what?
No, he didn't.
He was a Cowboys fan, so, I mean, that explains a lot.
Explains all you need to know.
Yeah,
did you hear Jerry Jones got interviewed by a Philly writer and called Eagles fans frauds? It happened. I just watched it on Twitter before we got on.
Yeah.
He just said, those Eagles fans, they're frauds, but they're great people. And he loves, coming to Philly and playing games. And when they're giving him a hard time and heckling him, he just looks at them and he's like, oh, okay. Because he's Jerry frickin' Jones and nobody gives a shit about him anymore.
I mean, he's rich, so he probably doesn't care about our opinions. However, nobody really cares about yours either, Jerry.
Just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah, just so we're all on the same page. That's definitely a lateral move there. Nobody cares about your opinion of us, and we don't care that you don't care about our opinion of you. Quite frankly, I'm happy that you're the owner of the Cowboys. I will really, rest well at night knowing that you're in charge of that team and they will never win a Super Bowl as long as you are there, and probably not another playoff game.
Yeah, because as it stands, they haven't won a playoff game in 25 years?
No, Dak's 1-3, Romo's 1-3. They've won 3 in 25 years. They just won't get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
That's really, really, really weird. We touched on it before, but the Cowboys had such a talented roster, didn't do shit in the playoffs. They looked embarrassing, actually.
I know, and then they had the opportunity. They had the opportunity to win that game against the 49ers and literally just gave it away. Dak Prescott with a foolish run. You can blame the referees all you want, Cowboys fan base, but that was just a foolish play.
Honestly, the 49ers got a little soft on them. I thought they were going to run away with that game for good, and then 23-3, and the Cowboys started coming back.
Yeah.
So I mean, going back to the unbreakable records thing, I don't know that Bonds' home run record ever gets broken. I mean, truthfully, even in this day and age of long ball strikeout or walk, I think there's too many of the other two to really say that 762 is going to be broken. I don't think that it will. That's
a huge number. 762 home runs is a huge number.
Yeah, I mean, think about the elite power hitters in the game and what they have.
Yeah, another one. Henderson's stolen base record.
Yeah, that's never going to be broken. No way. There's just not enough movement on the base path, let alone somebody with the actual gonads to do that.
I mean, what did he play? He played 20 years and he averaged 27 steals a year. I mean,
I think it's got to be a little higher than that.
yeah, but I'm just saying on average, like the guy was a freak of nature his entire career.
And he stole 100 bases in a season, didn't he?
He did. Another record probably not being broken.
Yeah, no, that record's safe.
So he holds 2 of them. Good for him.
Yeah. Let's see. All-time hits, no way that gets broken. Average is not. Nobody cares about base hits anymore.
Yeah. Who's got that? Ichiro, right?
No, that's Pete Rose.
I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. I'm sorry. Charlie Hustle.
Getting into the 3,000 hit club is such a big deal nowadays. Nobody's getting into the 4,000 hit club.
You're right. You're right.
Even when Ichiro did it, like Ichiro probably had the best chance, honestly, if he had started like on the same trajectory, like from the beginning of his baseball career instead of playing in Japan for a few years. I would have given him like an outside shot to do it, but I think him playing in Japan kind of, killed that.
Yeah, he for those of you who don't know, Ichiro played in Japan for I think 4 years before he ever came to the major leagues.
And then hit a cool 358 as a rookie or something like that and led the league in hits.
He hit a home run off of a ball that bounced in the dirt, didn't he?
Ichiro? I know Vladdy did. I don't know about Ichiro.
I don't know.
But, I don't know. Let's see. Other unbreakable records. I think even with the extra game, I don't think Peyton Manning's touchdown record gets broken.
See, that one's so fresh that I don't want to say, okay, I agree. Like, that one is so fresh.
I mean, think about all the young quarterback talent, and, like, with an extra game, nobody came close. Like,
nobody came close this year. Like,
yeah, but you have to average over 3 touchdowns a game still.
Man, that Denver team was good.
Yeah.
That Denver team
got walloped in the Super Bowl.
Yes, they did. By the Seattle Seahawks. I remember that.
That was definitely just the case of, a good team and good team on a bad day and then a good team on a good day. They were at opposite ends of the spectrum that day because they played again the next year and the game went to overtime. So that was probably a little bit more telling of where those teams actually were.
Yeah, I agree with you. Other unbreakable records. Let me just look up what.
Yeah, like what does the internet say is probably the most unbreakable record?
The first one that comes up is Ricky Henderson's 1,400 stolen bases.
Yeah, that's well in hand.
Cal Ripken's single consecutive games played. We already said that one.
Yeah, I think just with the emphasis on rest and off days and whatnot, I don't think anybody's gonna play.
Brett Favre, he's got a record.
The interception record?
305 of them. You're talking a player could play for 20 consecutive seasons throwing 15 interceptions each year and still not break that record.
Yeah, that one's probably safe too. I mean, Favre is a class of his own, just the super gunslinger mentality. So,
Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hit record.
Yeah, that's not going to ever be broken. Lack of emphasis on actual base hits.
Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50.4 points per game in one season.
Yeah, no.
So this is one that we think can be broken is Gretzky's all-time points, 2,800 points.
Points? No, I think his goals get broken, though. Dude was a playmaker. He had some seriously good hands.
He had 92 goals in 1 year.
Yeah,
92 goals in one season.
Like we can't sit here and be like, yes, Gretzky was that amazing without being like, those goalies probably suck.
All right, fair enough. Hack Wilson's 191 RBIs in 1 year.
Yeah, that's not going to be broken.
The people who have come close, Manny Ramirez drove in 165 in 99. And that's the closest. Yeah, that's the closest.
26 off.
Bill Russell won 11 championships.
I was about to say, I don't know that anybody's going to come close to that, but Yogi Berra had 10, so.
That's 100% right. But Bill Russell, 11 championships with the Celtics. Night Train Lane with 14 interceptions in one season.
Yeah, no.
Jerry Rice.
He did that in 12 games.
He did do that in 12 games, 1952.
Yeah, he did that in 12 games. That's over an interception a game. No way.
Yeah. Jerry Rice's all-time receiving yards record, 23,000, probably not going to be broke.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody plays nearly as long as Rice did either. So, Did you ever see that stat of receiving yards over 40 years old?
He's the only one.
No, it goes him by a substantial margin. He's got a couple thousand, few thousand. Tom Brady somewhere like in the like teens, and then Brett Favre with -2.
It's an interesting list.
So if you think about it, Brett Favre is last all time out of every player who's ever played in the NFL in receiving yards 40 years older. People who did not play in their 40s, are ahead of Brett Favre.
Here's another Babe Ruth one that'll help your argument here. Is he had a career 690 slugging percentage?
Yeah, I mean, dude was a beast. Could you imagine him in a live ball era? Now, there's always the argument of pitchers didn't nearly throw as hard back then either. You know, the pitching was a little different, but
Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sorry, go ahead.
But he played in parks like the Polo Grounds and whatnot too. You know, he just played in these massive stadiums.
That's true. Yeah.
Like every aspect that you look at, 700 home runs in that time period is just incredible. Like nobody today could do it. No way.
Absolutely not. No, definitely not in today's league. I mean, if Trout was able to stay healthy his entire career, maybe he'd come close, but I still doubt it.
Yeah. I mean,
the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 26 consecutive losses.
Again, talent's too even nowadays. You could start a brand new franchise and they probably wouldn't lose that many games in a row.
Barry Bonds, 120 intentional walks in a single season.
Yeah, that's nobody's going to intentionally walk like that.
I mean, you got Cy Young in his 750 complete games. Johnny Unitas, 47 games with a touchdown pass. 47 consecutive.
Is the complete games. Pitchers don't nearly pitch as long as they used to anymore. So,
Gretzky won 9 MVPs, and Nolan Ryan has 7 no-hitters.
The no-hitters one won't get broken either. I think most baseball records, just by how much the game has changed and the way players are utilized, probably stand pat.
So like Ryan said, the talent is too good for any team to do this. They were a bad team this year, and they still managed to win 4 games.
Yeah. If they didn't go, totally defeated this year, that's not going to happen. They were a really bad team.
Correct.
Like 3 first-round draft picks now.
So I mean, those are just some of the records that are unbreakable that Ryan and I feel. I don't really have a lot more. I'm just excited for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about after the game happens, but, it'll be our last time covering football for some time. We'll talk about off-season moves and whatnot, where we think people will go, but, yeah, it'll be the last game of the year.
Next week when we're back, we'll discuss
some baseball news.
Go ahead.
Universal DH is approved by both owners and the Players Association. So one part of the collective bargaining agreement down. However, in my eyes, that was probably the easiest part to go over.
Yeah, I mean, as a fan base, and even as the organization itself, the MLB, awkward swings, chance of injury, having to manage bunts and stuff. I don't think it took away from the game, but it definitely slowed the game down. And as a league, they have already come out and said, hey, we need to speed this up a little bit. The game is too slow. We need to find ways to speed the game up. Well, not having pitchers bat is a good way to do that. Also, a lot of them just look awkward out there. So I think it's good. In addition to that, it was also announced that there will be 2,200 televised college baseball games this year.
Yeah.
So that's huge for the sport, huge for the kids playing, obviously. So I'm looking forward to watching some college baseball as well this year.
Yeah, college baseball is actually pretty good. The College World Series is probably one of the more underrated sporting events out there. A lot of wild upsets, a lot of competitive games, and you get to see a lot of the top prospects. You get to see like big fish in a small pond type deal. And then they get drafted to the MLB, and you as a top 10 pick, and you never hear of them again. So.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch that stuff. Supposedly yesterday afternoon, there was a meeting between the MLBPA and the MLB Owners Association. I have zero information that has come out of that.
I have some.
Perfect. Go.
So Major League Baseball just tweaked its proposal regarding competitive balance tax and, a couple other changes. They're trying to eliminate the draft pick compensation for going over the threshold. as well as raising the actual threshold, which is kind of a step backwards in my opinion. I don't think the players will go for that. But there was a 130-page proposal sent out by the MLB to the Locked Out Players Association. So what comes of that, like I said, I don't think that the players will buy into raising the threshold. However, that would mean more money for them, but at the same time, the sport becomes much less competitive. That's probably the issue with the competition already, is that the big markets just kind of dominate.
All right. Yeah. Again, just very little information from baseball right now. They're keeping a lid on it very tight, and part of that is because they're really not close to any kind of an agreement. Hopefully, they get it figured out here soon, and Ryan and I can get to some spring training games. But until that happens, we'll keep you posted, I suppose. A little bit of Philadelphia Eagles news. Jason Kelce is mulling retirement, but he's leaning towards staying, which is great for the Philadelphia fan base. He did come out and say that this was supposed to have been his last season, but he feels like he's got more to do, which tells me he trusts in whatever plan the Howie Roseman, the GM, and Jeff Lurie, the owner, have in place. That's what that tells me.
He also just genuinely screwed the Eagles over out of $30 million the next 2 years if he plays, because his contract was rewritten so he would retire this year and they wouldn't owe him any of that money.
I'd still like to see Jason Kelce on the field, contract or no contract.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks because the Eagles, I mean, they would have to have just some monster draft and, draft some immediately impactful rookies for them to be any sort of, real Super Bowl contender over the next 2 seasons. So I'm 50-50 on it. As much as I love Jason Kelce, you have your streak, your game started, all that and whatnot. I would probably, if you're thinking about it, then I would prefer to see him step away, actually, but that's just me.
Okay, I'd prefer to see him play, so we're on different ends of that one. As has been for the last couple of weeks now, lots and lots of rumors that Russell Wilson will be traded and one of the number one landing spots, even though he has not come out and said he'd be okay to, because he has to okay the trade to Philly. For some reason, the Philadelphia Eagles are still the number one landing spot for Russell Wilson. How do you feel about that?
It's not a win now team. Like, why do we need a win now quarterback? Like if we go out and get a Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, and a Russell Wilson who I've truthfully come on the show and said I think he's not 100% committed to football anymore. Since he started doing all those, gigs with Sierra and whatnot, he's been on TV a little bit more, advertising for people. He seems a little bit less involved in football. And I've heard that from my Seahawk fan friends as well. So
that could have something to do with him still being in Seattle, though.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't know. It's not a risk I'm willing to take for the price that we're going to have to pay.
True.
Is he an upgrade over Jalen Hurts? Sure. 100%. But at the same time, that's not a move that's going to make us, help us win a Super Bowl, in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm with you. Look, I'm with you. We got a young team, and I know I've been really, 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 really critical of Jalen Hurts. I've picked him apart at times, but then I've also come out and said, hey, I was wrong, X, Y, and Z. I think based on what Jalen Hurts showed you this past season, you have to run with Jalen Hurts. He had some really good highs, really good ups. Yes, he had a lot of lows, but there's a lot to be positive about with Jalen Hurts as the quarterback of the franchise. But I don't think you give him past next year. If he comes out, gives you the same performance as he was doing this year, somehow squeaks into the playoffs, which I doubt happens if it's the same scenario next year. I think you realize, okay, we are a playoff team, and Jalen Hurts is the one holding us back, not the other way around. Yeah,
and truthfully, if you do see no progression, if it's the same exact stuff from this year, then yes, I think it's time to move on. Like I said, I think Sirianni was wonderful in making adjustments that tailored to his offense, but at some point, Jalen Hurts is going to have to grow as a player and open up his dynamic rather than just with his legs, use his arm a little bit better and a little bit more effectively as well.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a little bit of it down the stretch, especially because his ankle was still hurt. He had surgery on it a couple of days ago or a week ago or whatever it was to get it repaired. And he was being forced to stay in the pocket and throw the ball. And there were times where he looked good, and then other times where, he's making a throw and we're like doing this thing, like, but he showed progression. And that's why I think all these rumors about Russell Wilson and the Aaron Rodgers rumors and drafting a quarterback, I don't think they're accurate. I think First of all, I think, and and I will break down an entire episode of where we think the Eagles are going to draft people at, but I think they primarily focus on defense early in the draft, and they get Kelsey to come back so they can protect their young quarterback. They have a good running attack. You give Jalen Hurts the next year. It just makes the most sense, especially with the amount of money that you don't owe him.
Yeah, keep him on his rookie contract. That's big. Unfortunately, from that side of the aspect, he was a second-round pick, so he has no fifth-year option. But Hurts will play next year. Depending on what happens with Gardner Minshew, that might not even be all year if he does show no progression, or even slight regression. Minshew looked pretty good in his 2 games that he played, so he might make a push. However, there's big rumors that Gardner Minshew is going to be dealt in the offseason, which I'm totally fine with. If we can get some kind of turnaround for that, a late draft pick that could turn into somebody, that would never bother me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one too. I guess it really comes down to what Howie Roseman wants to do. Do you want to have another quarterback controversy in Philadelphia, or do you want to nip it in the bud right away and move on from that? Because if Gardner Minshew comes out in the and I know preseason is preseason, I totally get it. But if Hurts comes out in the preseason looks like crap, and Minshew comes out in the preseason looks real good, there's going to be conversation.
Yeah, there's going to be a conversation for sure. Another big piece coming from Philadelphia camp. Devonta Smith actually went on the record and said out loud, like, we need to bring a veteran wide receiver in for this young wide receiver group. Kind of putting the pressure on his GM to go get a guy like Allen Robinson, somebody in free agency, or, to help bolster, I guess, the experience in the wide receiver room, because that is a very young group.
Very young.
I think the oldest receiver is Greg Ward, who started as quarterback. So,
yeah, I mean, you're overall outside of the trenches, the whole team is relatively young. We got a couple of young safeties outside of McLeod because I think his contract is over. Darius Slay, I know, just turned 31. But the team as a whole is really young outside of the trenches.
I could see them trading up in the first round to go get a guy like Derek Stingley, the cornerback from LSU, who's probably going to be a top 10 pick. So he's probably not going to fall to them. But I could see them moving up to go get a surefire cornerback play outside of Darius Slay, and then maybe another safety or whatever on the back.
We'll get into that in another episode.
The draft was looking much better when all 3 of those teams were really bad to start the year.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't have anything else. You got anything else?
No, not for this episode. No, but I got, a bunch of draft scenarios and whatnot. I'm sure we'll cover those in, upcoming scenarios or upcoming shows.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us here at BSing Sports. Thanks for joining us, where there's a little BS and a whole lot of sports.
Bye, guys. Have a good weekend.